Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Matt, or well, I guess I was known as Train Ass originally on the show. It's been a while since I've been on here. I came back, got kind of invited back. This is episode 45 of Hello Nintendo. How's it going, guys?
It's good to have you back. I don't know where you went though. You just kind of disappeared into the ether of the internet.
Yeah, I ended up starting up another podcast, and so I've been doing that for the past almost a year now. So that's where I went.
Do you want to plug that podcast real quick? Because it's actually a really good podcast. People should listen to as well.
Oh, sure, yeah. So the podcast that I host now is called Hello. No, this is Hello Nintendo.
The podcast you're hosting right now is Hello.
Yeah. Actually, I think I did that on one of our first episodes too. I misspoke.
It's like calling your ex's name in bed.
Yeah, that's something you definitely don't want to do.
Oh yeah.
No, the show I do now is called Canadian Geek Cast. It's myself and four other Canadians. We actually all met through Twitter. So we now a few of them have actually met and they know each other kind of in real life in person, but I've never met any of them in person. Yeah, so we're a group of 5 Canadians, and we just generally talk about movies, TV shows, video games, like anything kind of really geeky that sort of catches our interest. And so it's a weekly show. We do it every Sunday. We actually stream it live on Mixer and Twitch and YouTube. And then we also release it, just the audio version, usually Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on when I can get that edited and get it out in between doing all my voice work. So yeah, we just rolled over to episode 40 last week. It was the big 4-0. And I think March or April is our first birthday or 1-year anniversary. So it's a lot of fun.
I had a joke, and then I didn't pop in at the right time, and then it became too late, and now it's awkward. But when you first said, it's a group of 4 Canadians, and we talk about. And
yes,
I was like, oh, it's clear as day. And I'm a Canadian too, so.
Yeah, because we get people that comment on the Canadian voice and everything and the accent. Funny enough, I had an audition last night for a radio commercial, and in the casting call, they specifically said a bona fide Canadian accent. I'm like, well, I grew up in southwestern Ontario. That's kind of the very, that.
No dude about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I sent that off last night, so we'll see what happens there. But
I should also probably introduce myself to all of our listener.
Yes, our other host. Yes. Who are you?
So my name is Dan, aka Embassy, and I've been a Nintendo geek all my life, but I started modding on the subreddit just before the Switch launched. And it's been a fun ride so far, and I've been kind of the guy editing a lot of the earlier episodes, so I'm sorry about that. I'm going to do better in the future.
Nice. Looks like we've got, I guess 2 regulars. We've got, who else is
with the us? Actual host of the show.
Yeah, the actual host of the the actual host of the show, not the...
No duty booty.
Not the shows of the hoe.
That's a different show
great.
entirely.
I do love that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
I don't know why I'm acting nervous. This is like a regular thing for me. I don't know.
It's because we're judging you so harshly right now.
Yeah.
It's because we know we got something special here. We know this is important today.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So who else is? So we've got a Wada fan,
AKA Michael. Hey guys, happy to be on the show.
And Alec, the Scottish Lion. I got that right? Did I remember that right?
Yep,
awesome.
Got it.
I believe all of this crew were involved in like the first few episodes of this podcast, and
yes.
So it's been cool. We're approaching slowly but surely our 50th episode, and so thank you to all of our listeners that have come with us on this journey so far. We are just on the ground floor, and 2019 has a lot of cool stuff It's an exciting time to be a Nintendo fan, and therefore it's an exciting time to have a Nintendo podcast.
Mm-hmm. And a small tip, don't go back and listen to episode 1. Just don't do it.
Or any of them. Start now. Today's the one.
Yeah. So I guess you guys do, what have you been playing at the beginning of your episodes, don't you?
Still doing what have you been playing? And I think you have a little confession to make about the poor Wii Fit trainer, Matt.
Yes, so I have been playing, and I'm sure my wife would probably contest this a little bit because I've been slacking, but fitness boxing on the Switch, trying to use it to actually get in shape that's not circular. So my wife and I have we've both been using it, and honestly, I think Wii Fit Trainer, move over. Lynn is the new waifu.
Does that mean we get Lynn in Smash now?
Oh, that would actually... Man, totally. Lynn versus Wii Fit Trainer? Oh, totally.
Like a clone, or actually a clone of Little Mac.
Could be. Well, yeah, because she's a boxer. So, right. But no, fitness boxing is pretty good. I mean, it's a very basic fitness game. It's got, I think it still has, a lot to be desired, but in terms of something that gets you up and active and moving, and gets your heart rate up, and not because of the trainer, and tries to help get you fit. It actually does a good job. So it's tough. Like, they're both, my wife and I will be finish our workout, and sometimes, depending on what it is, we'll be struggling to move, just because because of the moves that it's making you do. So I've been doing that. Ace Combat 7 as well on my X1 with the joystick is just so much better than a controller. Absolutely love the game. It's an amazing arcade flight sim. And then revisiting Tales of Vesperia, since I never finished it on my 360. Loving it on the Switch. Looks gorgeous. Plays amazing. If you have never played a Tales game, I highly recommend picking up Tales of Vesperia. Just, you can start there. Totally worth it. So
the first Tales game I played was Symphonia back on the Cube, and I think that was a lot of people's first Tales game that have been playing RPGs for a while at least. But I know there's been tons of ones I've missed on the PS2 and the PS3 and PSP. But now the Switch is the new PSP. I'm super glad all of these JRPGs are just hitting fast and furious. We kind of got a slow start. But this year, especially with all the Final Fantasies coming out, it's going to be an awesome home for the people that want some good waifus. If the fitness boxing waifus aren't enough,
yeah, for sure, hands down. Dan, what have you been? What have you been playing a lot of, Dan?
I've been playing on my Switch a lot lately because I've lost my wife of 1 year. She's succumbed to that awful disease known as Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. And I'd promised her years ago we'd get a PS4 just for that game, but I figured I'd had forever to wait because I was just going to be never getting it. I never wanted to get a PS4, but now the game actually released, so time to pony up, and so we got the PS4. Actually, we got it last year to play Horizon and Spider-Man. But now Kingdom Hearts has been the main thing that we have this system for, and she's been on it nonstop since launch. And so I have been playing Rogue Legacy on the Switch, and I wanted to give that game a special shout out for a lot of reasons, because it's a special place in my heart, that game. When my wife and I got married, we went to Cuba, and on the last couple of days of the trip, I got some extremely bad food poisoning / E. coli / I ruined the last few days of the trip. And my sweetheart wife sat in a bed in a resort with me and played Rogue Legacy on Steam on our laptop that we brought with us, and it was the perfect, as good of an end to a honeymoon as two gamer nerds playing our 2D platforming adventure together. And now a lot of people didn't realize it was Switch. It came out in November, but it's been overshadowed by so many indie games and so many other games coming out. And plus, this game has been out on other systems and Steam for a while. So if you haven't yet played it, get it on Switch because portable has been fun. It's been nice to have it kind of anywhere. It's the kind of game where anywhere makes sense.
Michael, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Well, I am always playing indies on the Switch, and the last 2 weeks have been no different. I have been playing Hollow Knight, which I played because we mentioned it so much in the last episode. We were talking about the best games of 2018, and Hollow Knight kept showing up over and over and over again. And I had played a few smaller indies that were really good, but a bit underwhelming, perhaps in terms of longevity. So I've been playing Hollow Knight, which, if you want to do everything that's in the game, reports are saying it takes 50 hours to do that. And so far, that appears to be true. I'm 16 hours in. It's this beautiful, dark Metroidvania. And when I say dark, I mean that in a very literal sense. It's an extremely difficult game to play during the day because it looks so much better at night. It makes a lot of use of the color black. Yeah. And so this is a must play, in my opinion, especially if you grew up with Metroid or with Castlevania and want to experience some modern take on that takes it to in a totally different direction. Hollow Knight is the game for you. It's kind of hard to say much about it without spoiling it because so much about this game is just discovering the elements. And so almost everything you can say about it is a spoiler, except it is extremely fun to explore and defeat enemies and discover what there is to discover.
Whoa. There's enemies in this game? You're spoiling everything.
There's even bigger enemies that they call bosses. Oh my gosh.
Bosses?
Oh boy.
I had the same problem describing Breath of the Wild to people because exploration was such a major part of it, and seeing things for the first time was such a major part of it. Seeing a dragon before you know it even exists in the game was such a cool part of that game for me. So I totally get that. You can't say too much sometimes with these games.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. You know, I mean, even just learning what the characters in the game are to begin with. Yeah. It's just hard. You can't even say much about that without. This is a game that it's very much about the experience. I've been describing it as a slow burn because it just doesn't tell you much about itself except through gameplay itself over long periods of time. Like I said, I'm 16 hours in, and I feel like I have no idea what's going on still. So that's an interesting way to make a game, and I'm loving every second of it. This is an amazing game. Definitely something everybody should try to experience.
I've been meaning to try Hollow Knight. I've been hearing so much about it. So many games, and there's almost no time to play them.
Totally.
It's a wonderful problem to have, especially on a Nintendo console that didn't have that problem for a while.
I just really honestly hope that the Switch doesn't fall victim to what the Wii U and the Wii did, or well, not so much the Wii U, but the Wii, where it was just shovelware. Just people were releasing everything on it, and sometimes the quality was just absolute garbage.
I have a lot of things to say on that subject specifically, but I'm going to wait because I want to ask Alec what he's been playing.
Alec, looks like you've got a lot to say about yours. What have you been up to?
Last week I finally finished the saga that has been Banjo and Kazooie.
Nice,
sweet.
Playing that for a long time, and then I stopped for reasons, and I finally got the opportunity to. Last week I went back. My sister has the Xbox One, and that's where she has been. That's where I've been playing it at. We don't live together anymore. So, but last week I went to visit her to help her get set up for college. Finally finished Banjo and Kazooie. The beginning is much better than the end. The last two worlds are completely tedious and atrocious and everything I hate about platforming games. Never mind that the final boss fight is not a boss fight. And I think it's safe to spoil an almost 20-year-old game.
I would say so. Yeah, I think you're.
I mean, we just told them that we had bosses in Hollow Knight, so all bets are off now. Yeah. There's dragons in Zelda too.
And fitness boxing has boob physics. So, I mean,
dude,
just
spoilers.
So
sorry to derail your conversation.
it's
there.
good. Derailing is good. Because that's what the final boss fight did. It is. I was expecting, like, you walk in and you have to, maybe do some traditional platforming to get to Gruntilda. It's a bloody quiz. It is a quiz that you have
Really?
to go through, and Wait, have you not played Banjo?
Yeah, I've played and finished both Banjo 1 and 2, but that was like on the N64.
Yes.
And don't forget, I'm 35, so like it's been forever since I've played them.
It's a quiz, and you have to go through, and she's asking you, like, it'll play like a sound of a character from the game, and you have to guess that character's sound, or it'll show you like a close up of one of the worlds, and you have to guess that world. And it was fairly easy, but it was a bit tedious because I took like a 2-month break from playing the game, so I'm like racking my brain. Oh my gosh, what is this? Never mind that I'm really slow at getting through the game. It took me almost 16 hours to beat. When I think it's probably I was going for 100%, but because I don't have access to the Xbox One all the time, I rushed through the last 2 worlds, not 100% those, and that would be Rusty Bucket Bay and Click Clock Wood. The part that I got stuck at, though, is I'm terrible at. I don't know how to describe them. They're not quick time events, but they're the mini games in Banjo and Kazooie. Gets to a part on the quiz board where you have to fight through those. I couldn't get past them because I'm horrible at those. And then it added a 30-second timer to it. So did I beat
nice.
Banjo? No, I never beat the game, but I got to the point where I stopped having fun with it and it became impossible for me to beat in one night sitting there. But that being said, that's my complaints about Banjo. I love Banjo and Kazooie. The first portions of the game are absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite 3D platforms. It's actually one of my favorite games of all time. I love Banjo. I don't know what about it made it so much more. I like it better than Mario 64. I think a little bit of just the fact that Rare kind of mocks you as they go through it. It's kind of a staple of Rare games. They make you feel bad for being bad. And there is a lot of enjoyment in that. Gruntilda she will mock you for being awful at the game, and that gets to you. That gets to you as as you keep repeatedly dying. But
Yeah.
I also like that there's a world to explore, and it's a little bit more in depth than Peach's Castle because you can actually die, and you can die in Peach's Castle, but there's a lot more threats in Banjo and Kazooie. There's a lot more nuances to the world. It's a really charming game. It is some of the most creative. It's a lot like their Donkey Kong game. It's really creative platforming, and there's a lot of puzzle elements more so than Mario 64, where there's a little bit of puzzles, but it's more using the platforming and fighting mechanics of Mario to get the star. Banjo has a little bit more puzzle mechanics to the platform where you have to guess at characters, what characters are saying to find certain things, especially in Click Clock Wood. Oh my gosh, that was tedious. Tedious. But yeah, amazing game. Favorite world, Freeze Easy Peak. I always loved the winter worlds. That was a lot of fun, especially the ski race with the other bear. That is a really charming world. But yeah, I beat Banjo and Kazooie. Everybody else should too, if you have access to it.
Nice.
I would love to have access to it, Nintendo. How wonderful an N64 virtual console would be for people that want to play those 3D platformers.
So the only problem with that is because it's a Rare, Rare owns it. Unless Nintendo and Microsoft come to some sort of agreement, which even though they're playing nice right now, crossplay is one thing, sharing IPs is another.
Yeah.
I don't foresee Banjo, the Banjo games coming to a Nintendo virtual console.
Not without a Nintendo game going over to the Xbox One or something like that. Like maybe they'd trade for a Bayonetta 3 port or something like that. But
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I don't
think it's happening. But that said, we have DK64, and that'll work.
But DK is a Nintendo IP.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
what I'm saying. It's
it's-
like for the people that want that kind of experience, like Banjo provides, it's the closest thing we've got, and it's pretty good. Not as good as Banjo, I would say, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you could always, if you're, not above a little, piracy, you can get an EverDrive 64 and the ROM, and you can play the ROM on actual N64 hardware. Not that I have anything, any knowledge about that or would
No,
do such a thing.
We don't officially endorse piracy at all.
But I think right now, unless you can find the actual cartridge, or if you've got Rare Replay on, on the Xbox, that's unfortunately.
Or if you're like me and you still have your 64, I can just go plug it in.
Yeah. Oh, I've got my 64.
The Rare Replay does offer some quality of life improvements where the music notes do not disappear if you die in a level, so you can go back
I remember you saying that,
and complete them. And there's also, it did get rid of some of the glitches, but at the end of the game, I also start to abuse some speedrunning glitches that are still in the game. So they're there if you like the glitching part of games.
Sometimes like glitches add to the game in like a way that just adds character. Like for instance, I have a lot of fond memories about that blinking square at the end of the sky bonus levels in Mario 3. And I know everyone knows kind of what I'm talking about. If they've played Mario 3, you get on any like emulated or like the original versions, not obviously Mario All-Stars, but like that Mario 3 blinking square thing that was just a glitch from the NES is, I don't know, something cool I like to see every time I play that game.
Well, shall we dive into the episode, the main part of the episode?
Yeah. It's been a rip-roaring January full of ups and downs, and one of the biggest downs is that we didn't get a Nintendo Direct, but we got so much news that they could have probably had one if they wanted to present the news that way, but they had their investors conference. So before we get into that, I know one of the biggest things that happened was Smash got patched. So take it away. Let's talk about that.
The biggest deal to happen in these last few days, especially, was the release of Piranha Plant, which has drawn all sorts of attention, both good and bad. We, of course, are excited that Piranha Plant is here. Piranha Plant is good. Piranha Plant is awesome. But for some reason, people can't seem to get a hold of Piranha Plant for all sorts of reasons. It's mostly people just not knowing how to go through the steps to obtain it. And so the internet is just full of people who are confused and upset, and Nintendo's phone lines are crashing because they're calling and asking how to do this, how to do that, where's my code? It was supposed to be emailed, it wasn't emailed, but it actually was, but the title of the email was confusing, and it's just one big bundle of mess that has delighted us as the moderator team of our Nintendo for the last few days. So that's been exciting for all the wrong reasons, but some of the right ones too.
I think the subreddit is a natural place for people to seek help. I feel like a lot of people that have just recently got a Switch and a lot of people that are just figuring things out maybe don't quite get how Nintendo does these things. It happens a lot, especially with the My Nintendo rewards and the gold coins and all this other stuff that you have to do, that Nintendo's own interface decisions have been biting them in the butt. People are expecting Steam or the PS4 ecosystem or the Xbox Live ecosystem, and it's still something the Switch doesn't have, which is like a uniform UI that feels good to jump from thing to thing. That said, Piranha Plant is pretty simple to get if you're paying attention and reading the super helpful FAQ that we've posted on our Nintendo. So go check that out if you're having problems. All your questions, and they're all the same, let's be honest, they're all answered there.
No, the funny thing is the eShop actually has the ability to enter a code directly. So that would have been my natural assumption about what to do too, but because it runs through my Nintendo, it's a little more confusing. For folks like ourselves who are very used to Nintendo just doing things strangely for unknown reasons, it's not really that surprising. But if you're newer to Nintendo, which a lot of Switch owners are, it's definitely something to get used to, and these last few days have been a lesson for many people.
I have dabbled in Smash a little bit. My stepson, who lives with his dad during the week and with us on the weekends, has brought it over on weekends for us to try out. And we've been playing Spirit Board mostly. So I was just looking at the patch notes, and they've changed it now so you can play Spirit Board multiplayer, where everyone's kind of teamed up against the AI. And I feel like that's, for me, an even bigger, cooler thing than Piranha Plant, just because that's the way I've been playing Smash since it came out. Not that I've owned the game yet, but I probably will pick it up at some point.
Piranha Plant is pretty amazing if you have not played him yet. Maybe one of my favorite characters. For those who are more into the technical side of Smash, I could be wrong because I'm a completely casual player trying to say something technical here. He has the weight of Bayonetta, but a little bit more of a tank. He fights like a tank. He fights almost like King K. Rool. I got up to I think 180% damage, and I still was floating and not getting KO'd.
How is that PD Final Smash to control?
Do you have to control it? I didn't think I didn't.
I don't
I didn't
know.
do anything. I just let spoiler, but the PD Piranha will come out for the final Smash with the two cages from Smash Brothers Brawl, the campaign in Smash Brothers Brawl where he has Zelda in one cage, Princess Peach in the other cage, and he'll put your opponents in the cages, and then he breathes fire on them and devastates them. Good final Smash.
Of all the things to carry over from a previous Smash Brothers, that's like the only thing that survived Subspace Emissary was those cages.
It is. I was not expecting that as the final Smash, but I was I don't know, like maybe a lot of weeds coming out of the ground and like entangling players or something like that. But I'll take a fire breathing plant. I'll take it.
The only super memorable Piranha boss, other than Petey, would be like the Smilex from Mario RPG, or possibly the second. I think it's the second boss on Yoshi's Island, where you're shooting eggs at him, and he's like all over the room with the vines and the spikes and stuff.
Oh, good call. I do remember that boss fight.
And by extension, his cameo appearance in Tetris Attack, because Tetris Attack was just all the Yoshi's Island characters. So, but yeah, PD works, and everyone seems to love Sunshine now. I again, Matt can maybe empathize with me on this, or you guys, like, as older gamers, we've seen what's been popular come and go, and this we all know about the Zelda cycle of everyone hates the one that came out just before the one that's out, and there's a thing with Mario where Sunshine is super popular right now. I think it's because everyone's just like salivating for GameCube ports or GameCube DLC, because that's the age of our new crop of early 20-year-olds is the people that grew up on GameCube. So the internet conversation is constantly referring back to Sunshine as one of these greatest of all time Mario platformers.
Yeah,
and
I can see that, yeah.
When it came out, and this is as someone that was dabbling in like the online discussion back in the old days of the internet, the pre-YouTube days, the discussion on Sunshine was all like, this game is flawed, it's pretty good, and we're still going to give it a 9.0, but there's this wrong, you can't count the blue coins, the graphics are weird, there's camera glitches, the controls are weird, everyone just likes the non-flood levels most anyway. They should have just made the whole game that was the narrative going into that game's launch. and it's completely 180'd. Where now it's like this cult classic, not even cult classic. It's like the main Mario platformer, right? So it's one of the top games people want on the Switch right now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was also on the internet back in the before YouTube times as well, and I remember people just being upset that he was wearing a T-shirt. That was somehow just a great betrayal of everything Mario stood for, to have short sleeves, and that was perhaps
my stars! Oh my
video game
stars!
critique. So
my delicate sensibilities.
yes, exactly.
They would
Yeah.
have a fit over Odyssey's shirtless Mario. They would pick it.
Oh yeah, that's
Or
unacceptable.
Mario in a
We
wedding
can't even-
dress.
we can't even formulate words for that yet. It's just too upsetting.
Okay, so one of the next things we got to talk about, and then we should have probably touched on sometime in January. We haven't gotten around to talking really in depth about it. Is Metroid Prime 4 getting delayed or pushed back because they're starting the whole thing from scratch, and that's a disappointment to a lot of people. But it's not. I don't feel like it's as big of a disappointment as it could be, because everyone knows the game is still coming eventually. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all anyone really ever wanted from the announcement of its existence, was just to know, just to be sure. Because there's some franchises out there like F-Zero and Advance Wars and things like that where we don't know when the next one's coming. It could be now, it could be this year, it could be never. We'll have no idea until it happens. But, with Pokemon on Switch and with Metroid on Switch both being announced, just, hey, we're working on it, just calm down. That gives people a chance to breathe and relax. And now we can just kind of look forward to some super awesome end of generation Metroid Prime to end things off, similar to the way Breath of the Wild did on the Wii U.
Yeah, I think there were because the Metroid Prime was originally being developed by Namco Bandai, and
we think no one really knows for sure. We think,
yeah, but I mean, things must have been seriously going very wrong for it to be kind of scrapped, and then Retro to come back, for them to bring in Retro and to take over. Like it to be honest, it must have been really, really bad. Because that doesn't normally happen. Normally you don't get one studio start working on something and then all of a sudden everything stops and somebody else takes in. And usually when that happens, it's because the original was, quite poor.
Well, sometimes they develop a game and they kind of know that no one's really going to want it, but they just finish it anyway and they get it out the door. And that's how we get things like Federation Force and some of the later Paper Marios, where they know we want a game of the series. They don't have the main really awesome one coming, so they're going to throw us whatever they can get done in a short period of time on a lower budget. And that's probably what was happening. And now they've pivoted because no one bought Federation Force. And that game did a lot to set up Prime 4. So we're not even sure now if the plots are going to be still connected or if they're going to do something totally different now. Or it could be one of those things where like Nintendo's secretly behind the scenes been working on like a more powerful Switch or some successor. And if the game's going to get delayed, you might as well Breath of the Wild it and put it on the new system as a launch title. Those are the kind of conversations they're probably having now, that at least a 2021, 2022 type game.
I remember when I was convinced that Metroid Prime 4 was coming out in 2018. That was so wrong.
That was just like a month ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good times.
Christmas Day, you were like, oh, it's still going to come out like on the 31st, right?
There's still time.
The Amazon placeholder date, that's always the right date.
Always.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. No. No, what I think is Metroid Prime 4 was one of those games where it makes perfect sense for Nintendo to leave that to the studio who made the first three, first of all, but also in general. We were trying to think about this in a conversation I had recently about first-person shooter games that have come out of Japan to begin with, and it just seems as a genre to be something that Japanese studios don't really tend to make all that much. And because of that, it made a lot of sense to me that Retro should be involved with this because they have that history with not only the IP but with the genre. And really, this is kind of American studios' bread and butter, first-person shooters. I have a studio near me that makes nothing but games that involve guns, and it's just something that American studios have been making since Doom. And so to me, it made a lot of sense that Retro should be involved in this, and I actually assumed they may have been in some way just behind the scenes, but now it's obvious that that was not the case, that Retro actually had to go in and rescue the project. My understanding is they went to Nintendo Japan and they put together a proposal of how they could help salvage the project, and the executives liked it, and so they changed course. And so I think this can be nothing but good news because Nintendo is highly transparent with us. We know the series is in the right hands again, at least insofar as the right hand is the people who know how to make these games. So I'm hoping that's all extremely good news. I think that it will probably release on the Switch because Nintendo seems to have 7 or 8 year lifespans for the console. So let's say it comes out in 2021 or something like that. That's still only 4 years into the Switch's lifespan, right? So I think, or is it? I forget. Did the Switch come March 3rd, 2017? Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're only 4 years in by that point, and 2021, 2022 seems like a reasonable release date. We might get the Switch Pro or something. So it might be a Switch Pro exclusive.
No, I think ultimately, though, the fact that Retro is now at the helm of Prime 4 is only good for not only the series, but this game in general, and gamers are going to benefit from this. Anytime Nintendo delays a game, it is for good reason, and I can't recall a time where a Nintendo has delayed a game and it's come out and it's either been very poor or it's just not like it did not have a positive outcome. So
I can think of a few, but it doesn't help your point, so I won't.
No,
Star Fox Zero, which I think was delayed at least once, and then
the Wii U though was
the same thing happened at the end of the Wii's life cycle, and at the end of the GameCube's life cycle, and in the middle of the N64 life cycle. And I remember all these conversations clearly going back because I've been a nerd for that long.
Mhm.
But it's always, is this one game going to save the fortunes of the whole console? And the answer is always no, it's not, unless that one game is GoldenEye. But it really doesn't work that way. You have to have a strong first couple of years, or you have to have the resources to wait until the end of the generation, like the PS3 did, where they didn't have much going on at the beginning because development took so long because of the cell and all this other stuff. But once they got their groove rolling, they rolled with it, and it worked very well near the end of the life cycle. Now, Switch is a front-loaded life cycle. It's been popular from day one, and it's growing in popularity from. That brings us to our next topic. One of the hardware sales that came out as a result of their conference, their investor briefing. We know now that Mario Kart 8, for instance, has sold not only more on Switch than it did on Wii U, which was kind of a given, but there are now more copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in people's hands than there were Wii U's in people's hands.
Yeah.
And the Switch itself is doing it's pretty much on par with where the N64 ended up at the end of its life cycle. So we're now saying this thing is a bona fide hit. There's a lot of really good news coming out of Nintendo's numbers.
Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah. Alec, you want to take talking about Nintendo's non-gaming plans coming up?
Yeah, so Nintendo is actually doing Super Nintendo World Japan in 2020. That's going to be a lot like Disneyland or Universal Studios that we have in the States. and it's going to be Super Nintendo World. I don't know what that will all contain. We're guessing rides, or maybe a merry-go-round like Yoshi, maybe some of the rides from Super Mario Sunshine, maybe a Rainbow Cruise ride like in Smash Melee or Mario 64. It should be really cool though, and I'm scared but excited to see what they're gonna do all in one. I'm not a big theme park fan, but I'm always curious. And then the Mario movie in 2022, which I'm even more scared for. Personally, this is gonna be either really good or it will be levels of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show bad, and I am leaning towards Super Mario Brothers Super Show bad.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
That show raised me.
What? You watch your mouth, young man.
Welcome to Canadian Dadcast, where we talk about our fitness games and the good old days.
I've been watching this show recently, and I mean, it is a good show in its own way. It's just from a certain era that
everything was like that.
My kids love it.
It was all based on trying to sell you stuff, and it was all tie-ins to whatever
my 4-year-old and 6-year-old absolutely love the Super Mario Super Show. They watch that, Mario 3, and Super Mario World.
It is a cheesy show, and I do love it for its cheesiness because it's bad, but it's good because it's all cheese.
Yeah. And as a wrestling nerd as well, I'm also always intrigued watching Captain Lou Albano play Mario, because he was such an entertaining character. He brought this energy to Mario that I wish and hope that they somehow bring into an animated movie, which I feel like is going to maybe targeted a little younger than the movie we shall not speak of, the live action attempt from the 90s, which was more aimed at teens and older people. It felt like the whole time it was very dark and Tim Burton-y, or tried to be anyway.
Mm-hmm.
This one's going to be not necessarily as goofy as Minions, but it's going to feel like that. I could see them doing with Yoshi's what they did with Minions, and turn Yoshi's into the next big thing.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't mind even having the photorealistic CGI like what they're doing for the Pokemon movie.
Yeah,
I think that would be.
Yeah. No, that's a much nicer way to go. I've been imagining this fully 3D movie, and I mean, I don't know if they've said anything about it, to be honest, but if it was just 3D, to me that would be a lot less interesting. So I hope they build on what they did with New Donk City and and put Mario alongside real people.
Yeah.
I doubt it, just because Illumination hasn't done that yet, but maybe that's a crazy cool thing to try. But if they want to Roger Rabbit the movie, they could do that. I feel like it's going to look and feel more like their past work, and so it's going to feel like Wreck-It. Well, they didn't do Wreck-It Ralph, but I feel like it's going to feel like Wreck-It Ralph in that it's kind of for everyone tone. One of the other things that has been making the rounds, been as part of this investor briefing, they just, of course they have to reassure that they have more games coming. They didn't say what those were, because they probably still have plans on how they want to announce that stuff at E3 or at a direct that maybe we'll get in February. But there's at least one unannounced Switch game coming this year from Nintendo as a first-party title that no one knows anything about, and all we know is that they said it was going to be good and people will like it. Which, sure,
it's Pikmin 4.
I mean,
yeah,
that would be fantastic.
It's a new Earthbound game. That's exactly
people will
what
never
it is.
let that go. But
it's a new Earthbound game.
Now that you say Pikmin 4, that does make the most sense. If Hey Pikmin wasn't Pikmin 4, which is a strong suspicion, I suppose that would make the most sense about an unannounced title. But really, the list of options is just anything Nintendo hasn't released recently, so it's just impossible to guess. There's just so many options.
They've left it so ambiguous that it could easily be something smaller scale that people aren't expecting. But once they hear it, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I expect a Dylan game. I expect maybe a Starfy port or some kind of like Chobits or sorry,
Chibi Robo?
Chibi Robo. Yeah, something like that. Where it's like a first party franchise. Maybe they're gonna like bring in a codename Steam 2 or something like that.
An HD remaster of GoldenEye 64.
Dude,
yeah,
that's never gonna happen.
that will never happen, but that would be nice.
Perfect,
I mean,
Perfect Dark 2.
That's somehow more likely than GoldenEye just because it doesn't have the movie license to worry about. But
yeah,
even that remake they did on the Wii, and then they kind of remastered and put on 360 and PS3, I think is the best GoldenEye
It was
ever
awesome.
going to see.
Yeah,
we're never going to see
really good.
GoldenEye come back like that again.
No, sadly.
Wonderful 101 was teased a few years ago.
I never liked that.
But that's not a Nintendo first party game, so I don't think that would be
Is
the one.
it? I mean, I think it might be considered that for some reason. I don't know.
Or would it be a second party? Like I know it's exclusive. Like it's
but it's not the kind of thing Nintendo would talk about at the briefing. It's definitely one of those games that like Mario and Rabbids would not get necessarily brought up at a time like this. They're definitely announcing something that their in-house guys made.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially with the fact that they said there was some sort of statement in an interview. I think it was in Japan.
They're too busy making Bayonetta 3.
Yeah, Bayonetta 3, and they said that they're basically letting any idea go forward. They're just approving the ideas, so they're letting their developers experiment a lot. So we could see all sorts of stuff. I mean, you have to keep in mind the Wii U era, at least. I don't know if this could be said about the 3DS. With the Wii U, was very constrained times. They were playing it quite safe, but the vast success of the Switch at 32 million plus sales now has probably afforded them all sorts of freedoms, and they've already done a lot of the big games so far. So, I mean, a lot of the obvious choices aren't going to have follow-ups for a while. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, evidently whatever the limits of the imagination of their developers are, because they're just letting them kind of go wild. So it could end up being anything, really.
I'm still betting on a Mario sports game. I'm really hoping for Mario Golf.
That would be
cool.
They would be fools to not have a Strikers coming in the next year or two. Tops. Strikers is in demand, and FIFA is pretty popular on Switch, but it's clearly not cutting it for soccer fans that like the more arcadey style that Strikers provided. Plus, Strikers is where all the cool memes come from, because they, for some reason, use that franchise to push the boundaries of, I don't know, decency. They've got like Waluigi doing the Degeneration X suck it motions, and they've got like tight shorts Peach and Daisy and all this other stuff that like
the ads were pretty edgy too.
It doesn't fit with the rest of their, like Mario Golf doesn't look like that. So that's the one I feel like there's going to be more demand for, because they've done such a good job with those games.
Yeah. Well,
so that could be the one, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see something at I think they're going to keep things probably tightly under wraps until E3. I really hope that their E3 is actually good, unlike last year's where it was just nothing but Smash.
It'll have to be, because really, with Sony not in it and Xbox guaranteed to be pretty much showing off the next Xbox at E3, which is probably why Sony's not there, is they don't have two of the exact same presentation back to back. And they want to do their own thing where they can blow them out of the water and make jokes and memes about their presentation like they did before with the game trading fiasco. They want to wait, see what E3 brings in terms of what Microsoft's doing, and then counterattack. And so Nintendo's going to use this opportunity with Spotlight's pretty much all on the other guys. But Nintendo's like, but hold on, we've got Bayonetta 3 to show off, we've got Animal Crossing to show off, we've got a new mainline Pokemon to show off, there might be some kind of 2D Zelda or a Mario Maker surprise is coming. We've got our next topic, which we're going to just segue right into, mobile games coming this summer. And when we talk about Nintendo's ability to have more freedom in development and get more creative is because all this money is rolling in from their mobile titles, which they're funneling back into more development. So we're getting Dr. Mario and we're going to get Mario Kart Tour, both coming in the summer on mobile devices. And Mario Kart being the top Switch game, the top Wii game, probably the top Wii U game. Mario Kart is their blockbuster. I would not even be surprised if karting was in the movie. They're definitely going to put karting as a main feature as their theme park. So Mario Karting is going to be as important to Nintendo as Mario himself, even.
Yeah.
How are you going to get Mario Kart on mobile? I'm not a big mobile gamer. I download it.
Well, there's racing games on mobile. There's tons of ways to do it. They can make it look like a Super NES game. They can make it look like an HD, smooth, cel-shaded version of the Super NES game.
Yeah, and you can I imagine you'll have to, I'm sitting here holding my phone, tilting it back and forth, drive that way. That might be cool.
Yeah, or they'll auto drive for you like they do in Mario 8 DX.
I have a feeling it's going to be, there's going to be like Mario Run or something where it's kind of like an auto drive, and then you've got to be able to react.
Just steer left and right, and then
potentially, yeah. And you'll have like your items and stuff.
I mean, on the other hand, a lot of mobile racing games have made use of the gyroscope, so you're steering with the phone itself. And I could totally see Nintendo wanting to do something like that. Perhaps
they've already been doing it for like over a decade now with motion controls, so they're set. They're ready to go. They could have done this on original DS if they wanted to.
Exactly. And yeah. I mean, in fact, I think that that is a control option for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for instance. So, I mean, at the very least, I can see them leveraging the gyroscope features in some way. But I think Matt's right. It'll be something a little more simpler because it can't just be plain Mario Kart on mobile. They have to do something unique with it because it's Nintendo and that's what they do. So, I just don't see them. I don't see them doing what we expect them to do.
We know it's not going to look like Mario Kart 8. It's not going to be that graphics powerhouse.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Not that game is like a super huge graphics powerhouse, but as in terms of a Wii U game, definitely was the best game at showing off some HD beauty in the Mario universe. And this is going to be more like Pocket Camp and Fire Emblem Heroes, where it's developed out of their main studios. But they clearly have a lot of influence on on, and they're not necessarily going to rely on microtransactions. It's not going to be like every time you drive by an item block, pay 99 cents to pick up your mushroom.
But there's also another mobile game coming. We're going to hear more about it this summer. It's Dr. Mario is coming back. This time it's called Dr. Mario World. It's going to be a free to download puzzle type game. The details are pretty scarce though on it. It's targeting they're targeting summer of this year, so it'll probably get revealed more in a mid-year, maybe a spring direct, if anything, or it'll be one of those at E3. It's like Mario or Dr. Mario World available now, and then you can download it. Based on what Dr. Mario is like, where it's kind of like it's like a Tetris-y type game, I'll probably grab this because those are fun for quick pickup and play. But
Dr. Mario might be. I do subscribe to Nintendo Online, and Dr. Mario may be my most played NES game of those, except for Mario Brothers 3.
It's deceptively popular. My brother-in-law loves Dr. Mario because that was one of the games he played on the Game Boy and the NES and things. And every time it comes out on a new system, it's the one game he wants to play with me, and it makes Dr. Mario is just not enough to sell him on a whole new console most of the time. If it's on mobile though, I could see a lot of people, because they already like Tetris. They assume Dr. Mario's pretty good because it's like that. There's an association there with those old 90s and 80s puzzle games that they just don't make them like they used to. And Dr. Mario is its own unique thing that people really have a craving for. And on a phone, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when
Yeah.
I was growing up, Dr. Mario was on the Nintendo 64, and I always wondered, why are people spending $60 on a puzzle game? And I never played it in that era, so I was gaming since '93 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until maybe the 3DS there was I forget the exact name of Dr. Mario there, but it has some sort of Luigi remix where it sends down 2 pills at a time in the form of an L. That was the first Dr. Mario I played, and since then I have been addicted. And just like Alec, I've been playing nothing but that whenever I play the NES online service on the Switch. So I'm very excited about this game. I do fear that it could be highly monetized, especially if it's free to play. So
I think
perhaps
it'll
Nintendo
be
could do little microtransaction things to it, and that wouldn't be that great. But if they give you the raw game at least with more convenient mobile
Mm-hmm.
controls, I think that would make me happy. I just hope they don't take too much advantage of players through monetization.
no. It'll probably be like you'll get some lives in the puzzle mode if you want to buy extra lives in the puzzle mode,
Yes.
and then there'll be like you could buy cosmetics for the main game.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's
I
what
think
I'm
you're-
thinking too. And then plus it's
Backgrounds
called
and-
Dr. Mario World, and so that to me suggests, like for instance with Super Mario Run, in addition to the levels you play, there are also challenges, and there's also I guess you set up the area around your castle, and it's just like this mini castle town building game as well, where you just place objects. And it sounds like it could have some social features to it because the name World just suggests you're going to be playing this with others. So it sounds like it'll have a lot of things to do, and that would be a more sensible place to. Those different modes would be a much more reasonable place
Mhm.
to put different monetization things.
I could see it being a very close combination of the way Mario Run works and the way Candy Crush works, where you're just like traveling the world map, trying your best at the different challenges, and then you go back to your hub world and build it up and unlock things by building your little castles and stuff like that. So
What I want to know is when are we going to get a Dr. Mario Surgeon Simulator?
or a trauma center,
Dr. Mario Trauma Center. Hey, maybe that's the unannounced game.
dude.
That would be cool.
A new Trauma Center with the Trauma Center Wii titles as HD remasters.
And
what
your
they did for
choice,
Bayonetta.
your choice of pointer and motion controls or touchscreen controls.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Atlas is too busy making other things like SMT and Soda.
Atlas needs to make an HD remaster of Contact.
Their back catalog is phenomenal, and the recent success of I think a lot of developers this generation have hit it big with some really great games, and those games have been overshadowing their history of fantastic games.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of I saw those threads on Reddit. They weren't on our Nintendo, but we'll shout out the rest of Reddit for once. Remember when Master Chief, or when Bungie was known for Halo, and remember when Epic was known for Gears of War, and
Mhm.
Atlas is right up there too. Like they were known for a lot of things before Persona hit it big, and that's now dominated what people think of Atlas.
Yeah, I've been bugging a friend of mine who's in that industry. Just like Atlas needs to bring Contact back, and she's like, okay. Then she goes on to everything else that they're working on.
Yeah, that Contact is an amazing game. It's one of the few DS games I still have lying around. So, and yeah, I feel like Atlas just has this reputation where almost everything they've made has been really good.
Mhm.
And oftentimes even really rare, so it's hard to pick some of these games up sometimes. But yeah, and it seems like Atlas can do no wrong, so the more we see from them, the better.
Yeah.
They had a lot of niche titles that hit it big in Japan and then didn't get a lot of success worldwide, but then they pivoted and then started doing a bunch of stuff on the PSP.
Mhm.
and that really made them a force to be reckoned with in the JRPG market, where they weren't the go-to guys in the JRPG market before, and now they kind of are one of those top leaders in that genre.
Mhm.
And that PSP experience is carrying over the Switch beautifully. So give us Persona.
Yeah, and you know what, that'll kind of tie into the next one. I think if we were to get Persona on based on the reaction of Joker coming into Smash, we would see sales numbers, I think, go up even more, because Smash or Switch sales have been doing exceptionally well. We've got like 15 million Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sales. Smash Ultimate is 12 million. Let's Go. Now, I don't know if this is combined between the two, but Let's Go is at 10 mil. Mario Party's at 5.3 million for units moved. So that's pretty good, I would say.
Those are the games that, people call them evergreen titles: Mario Kart, Smash, Odyssey, Zelda, where most people, when they're going to buy a Switch, they're thinking, what's the one game I'm waiting for? Like, what's the game that's going to make me buy that Switch? And for a lot of people, maybe Shin Megami Tensei is that game, or maybe Fire Emblem is that game right now, or maybe people are going to wait right until Metroid comes out before they pick it up. But
Yeah.
Inevitably, even if it gets a price drop later, at some point when you pick up a Switch, you end up going back and you pick up the essential collection, which is going to be your Breath of the Wild and your Kart and your Smash and Party. And I feel like those games, that's the reason they sell, is because it might not be everyone's first game they get. Like it's going to be the game that they get in year 2 when they're trying to fill their library. They're going to go with the classics and the biggest bestsellers. So I would, if Mario Party's already sold 5 million, I would say they're probably going to do another 5 next year and another 5 after that until a sequel comes out.
Yeah, probably. But it's always nice to see these numbers going up. That's always good. So
one last thing to talk about before we end off the episode, and it's been awesome so far chatting with you guys. This idea that canceled games from the N64 are coming back. We've got Dragon Sword 64, which is a game that was starting development for the N64 and might actually be now released. We're going to talk maybe about the broader idea of some of these classic games coming back. I know in the Wii generation, there was a big deal made about some of these Japan-only titles finally making their way to North America and Europe. One of those was Sin and Punishment. And there's a lot of regionally exclusive games, Mother 3, that have dominated the conversation. But there could be some hidden gems in these older generations that maybe never even got finished. Like we just had Star Fox 2 show up on the SNES Classic. What do you guys think? Any other cool games that you remember hearing about back in the day that never came out, or games that you would love to see an HD remaster of or a re-release of? I don't want to get into the virtual console topic because that's a whole nother bag of worms, but I just want to talk about like the idea, especially from the 64 generation, where, like we were saying with Banjo-Kazooie, like there's a style of game that doesn't really exist anymore, that's being trying to get re-revived, is this like N64 nostalgia era, and like Ukulele try to cash in on that, and Snake Pass and some of these other games that are focused more on that generation of gamers.
Well, one of the most obvious ones, it actually came out in the news a little recently. There was some company on a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo campaign that claimed that they had the license to Glover and they were going to make Glover 2, and everyone got excited. And then a week or two later, they were like, "Oh, we don't have the license for Glover 2, or we have some intellectual property related to Glover, but that doesn't give us permission to use it." It was some sort of technicality that they misunderstood, so we didn't get it. But, Glover was a really cool 3D platformer, and it might be interesting to see that make some sort of comeback or them make a sequel, because I know the development studio itself was planning on a sequel, but I don't know how far along they got in it, but it didn't sell well enough, evidently, to justify a sequel.
Yeah. Apparently Dragon Sword 64, the game that started this topic, is actually coming out on the 64 when it gets released.
And it's made by the people who made Glover, for what it's worth.
Coincidentally enough. So, if it is successful, maybe they will go back and revisit Glover and some other stuff. I also I remember there's some franchises that used to be a really big deal that should probably come back and continue to be a big. If the rights holders can work their magic, and that's the main development struggle. I think is the old rights from the 90s and the 2000s, who owns them, and these companies that went out of business, and a lot of things change around in terms of getting older games onto newer systems.
Yeah.
But one of the ones I really was hoping would come back on Switch would be like another really good 2D Earthworm Jim.
That's Ubisoft, right? Or who made Earthworm Jim?
I think it was it Acclaim originally?
Yeah, never mind. So that means Earthworm Jim is owned by WB, Warner Brothers.
Right. And I know they had a cartoon of it at one point. Like it's one of those franchises that could be popular if they wanted it to be. And I wonder why they're not.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the only Warner Brothers games that I've noticed are just Lego related, which is cool and everything. But I mean, I feel like they could take advantage of the IPs they bought when they bought out Midway. So I don't understand why they're not doing more. One other game that I also used to play, which is also a 3D platformer because that's what was on the N64 mostly, is Rocket Robot on Wheels. And that was made by Ubisoft, actually. And I don't know why, but we never really heard about this game again. But it was a fairly advanced 3D platformer for the era. It looked gorgeous. The graphics clearly showed that the developers knew how to make the Nintendo 64 hardware sing, but I guess it didn't sell all that well. It has fairly good game rankings, 82% or 8 out of 10 generally. But that's something that would be nice to see reappear.
I don't think I ever played that.
I remember reading a bunch of Nintendo Power features about a lot of these games, and some of them I got to pick up and try, and some of them I didn't. But they all kind of shared that same, like, we've got a main character with attitude and some pop culture references, and let's just have them go out and jump on things and jump over things and grapple stuff. There was one I remember that was like a ball and chain with a face on it, was like the main character. Gex was kind of in that genre too.
Crash, Spyro. I mean, basically, it was just the era of 3D mascots with attitude. And I mean, you just jumped on things and defeated enemies and collected stuff. And that was just awesome. I mean, I could do that all day. So whatever game gets released that does stuff like that, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, even though I don't like the N64 was a very flawed system, and even though I probably will never play these, I'm always curious to see what was in development purgatory. That's one reason I'm really excited actually to see what Dragon Sword 64 ends up being, because I don't know if it's a hack and slash. I don't know if that was a genre that was really ever developed to its to the pinnacle of what it could have been on the N64. So I always like seeing these games that never got finished or never just kind of died off, seeing what was in the minds of the developers, because it allows you to get a little bit of a personal view of what the people behind the project were creating and what their thought pattern was.
Yeah, especially nowadays with like social media and being able to talk to these developers or their updates on their blogs or updates on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and things, you get a sense of like the progress people are making, whereas before it was such a mystery about like what really goes on for those 2 years of development. What are they working on? And now, the developers people like and the ones that they trust tend to have a really good rapport with, like, because especially so many of them are reliant on Kickstarter. A lot of indie stuff is like super reliant on crowdfunding to get going. That might be the only way some of these ports ever happen. So it's cool that this like constant flow of like if you're curious about game development, there's never been a better time to watch developers do their craft and see the process to completion.
Yeah, and I think if this Sucker Punch 64 ends up working out, I think it will inspire more efforts to revive these old games. Or did I say Sucker Punch 64? I meant Dragon Sword. I don't know where did that come from? It's because the developer of Rocket was not just Ubisoft, it was Sucker Punch Studios or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I may have just accidentally revealed a game I wasn't supposed to talk about, so look forward to Sucker Punch 64, folks.
Right on. You heard it here first. It's a Hello Nintendo exclusive, and that's why y'all come back and listen to us next time. Hey, Matt, do you want to take us away on the outro? Another classic Matt outro?
I honestly, I don't. How did I do the intro on the show?
Well,
before?
that about wraps it up, as I believe.
Oh yeah, I guess I continue doing that one. Yeah, so that about wraps it up for this episode of Hello Nintendo. I guess, guys, if people wanted to connect with you online, I'm just going to what I normally do. Okay, so I'm just doing what I do. Where could people connect with you online if they wanted to keep talking to you about this kind of stuff or throw their comments at you? Dan, let's start with you.
Well, I'm one of those folks that doesn't really have a good grasp on social media yet. I've been on Facebook for years and on Twitter for years. I don't really use them, and I've stopped.
Old.
It's not so much that. It's that when I get doing it, once I have a project I really believe in, I want to do it and have a fresh account ready to go for that thing. And gotcha. I don't really want to dive in with personal stuff. So, and also because we're all subreddit moderators, and that's the reason we're doing this for the Art Nintendo subreddit. The best way to talk to me is on Reddit, DM MBC Nerdcore, or talk to us on the Mod Mail if you just want to chat about how the subreddit stuff is going. We're on the subreddit. So
nice. Michael, what about you?
You can reach me on the subreddit as well. My username is iwatafan, and you can also reach me on Twitter. I go by just my name. Michael R. Swenson is my current Twitter handle. If you have any suggestions about what else I should call myself on Twitter, I am open because I am hunting for a new username.
Nice. I'm sure Twitter can come up with something for you. Just don't ask Reddit. That can only end badly.
That's advice for the ages.
Yeah. Alec, what about you?
You can always find me on Reddit, user the Scottish Lion. Game Club is going up today. Super Mario Brothers 3. We talked about that a bit, so very fitting. Come play Mario Brothers 3 with us. You can also find me on Twitter at ACL Haynes, Haynes. This is going to be my last episode where I am fully on Hello Nintendo. It's been a lot of fun. I might be back here and there again, but this is my last full-time episode. So make sure to follow me on Twitter if you like the history of gaming, or if you have any interest in the history of the world. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter, starting some other projects on there that I'm really excited about.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on your Twitter feed.
Yeah, thanks guys for taking a break from your side projects to join us today, because I really feel like 2019 is gonna be something special for Hello Nintendo, and I know people are coming in and out all the time. We're probably gonna have some new voices on this year. As we add people to the mod team, we're always finding new people that want to help out with this thing. But thanks to our listeners for sticking with us, and we're gonna grow with you. Once Iwatafan gets a new username, he and I are going to just run roughshod over the rest of the whole podcast universe. I have a strong suspicion.
You can find me on Twitter under my Twitter handle, which I'm never going to give up. It's Reggie Fiza Meme, because
genius,
awesome. Yeah, actually, anytime I talk to somebody from Xbox, they always love my handle. Quite like that. Yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on Reddit under the username of Trainass, but I mostly do modding and then I lurk on other subs. So, but I mean, by all means, shoot me a message. And then if you wanted to check out another awesome podcast, if you search for Canadian Geek Cast on Twitter, you'll be able to find that and come hang out with us.
Nintendo!